There's a very specific energy that's weaving its way into relationships right now. It's purposeful. As much as it's a test, and nobody likes the feeling of being tested, and it can even produce a little bit of anxiety if you're anything like me. When I knew at school that I was going to write a test, I was like, wow, this is frightening. What if I fail? Well, this isn't a test you can fail. This is a test that is going to lead you to your power, and it's only a question of when. And you can write this exam, write this test at any time and at multiple times until you get it right. But of course, who would want to take the long way around? Who would want to make this journey any harder than it needs to be? So today I want to give you information that explains this relationship test to you, how to navigate through the test, what to do if you have taken the wrong path, in other words, how to course correct. And then at the end, I'm going to talk to you about a dynamic of power in your relationships that you need to know about. Because there are people in your world that are going to try to pull you down as you get powerful. And I really want you to understand what to do. Because the more you grow, the more you evolve, the more powerful you get, the more you're going to face this. And rather than finding this information after you've already transcended and ascended, I want you to have it now, so that you can bear it with you and walk through the world with this light fully lit, so that you don't fall into the baitings and don't fall into the traps that others are going to lay before you. Backtrack. Let's come to the energy update that I spoke about. First of all, when you listen to this, it's applicable to you. In other words, as you connect to this video, maybe it's on the day I release it, maybe it's a year after I release it. When you connect with these words, it's the right time for you, and trust, and you'll see that it's going to be applicable to you in the current relationships you have. How can I be so sure? Because I trust. I trust consciousness, and I trust the universe, and I trust the grand orchestration that we can't possibly comprehend to bring us all together. In fact, that's exactly what this time upon our planet is right now. It's the time in which we are all gathering, coming together, finding each other, uniting, and growing as one beacon of consciousness. The test? Well, it's a question. It's a question that the relationship is going to ask you. Friendship, lover, co-worker, stranger on the street, any interaction you have with another human being is a relationship, okay? And from this relationship, a question is going to be asked, and the question is, will you disempower yourself for me? Will you become answerable to me? Will you explain yourself to me? Because here's the thing, the truth, specifically your truth, never needs to be defended. The truth needs no defense, but a lie always does. So the moment you are accused of something or misunderstood, and you move into over-explaining, and I'm not saying you mustn't explain, I'm saying when you move into that place that is away from your power and into justification of yourself so that you can gain the approval and the acceptance of others, you've overstepped, you've gone too far off the bridge into disempowerment. And at that point, you're going to need to course correct. Before I get into how you course correct, let me just make sure that you understand exactly what the test encompasses. So first of all, every question has an answer, right? And what is the right answer? The right answer. If the question is, will you compromise yourself for me? Will you be answerable to me? Will you, because this is ultimately what's happening, will you allow the ego of others to bring you down? The answer is no. But how do you do that? That's the trick. We're going to talk about that, so do stay tuned. Let's talk about the course correct. How, if you've taken the wrong path and you go, uh-oh, wow, okay, I'm listening to this too late. I've already started justifying and explaining and defending myself to another person. If you've done that, you don't make it right with them. You make it right with you. You don't go to them to get your power back. You go to you to get your power back. You don't go to them to make sure that they understand you. You go to you to make sure that you understand you. You find the point at which you started becoming answerable to them, and you go reclaim yourself from that point. And when you reclaim yourself from that point, you reclaim your power. That's the course correct. It brings you back into alignment with your integrity, and it brings you back into that place where you don't need to justify yourself, because who are you answerable to? You know the answer, yourself. But not just yourself, you're answerable to your divinity, your higher self. And that higher self and divinity is like a rod of light. Yeah, I've got a video here about the rods of light. I'd love you to listen to it, and I will link it in the end for you. I'll put it up on screen. So the rod of light that I'm talking about is a cosmic beam of light that connects you from the earth to the cosmic field above. In other words, to the heavens, you could say. That cosmic rod of light is your alignment to God's source consciousness. Now that, oh baby, you are answerable to that. And what I mean by answerable is responsible. Responsible for the integrity of that. Responsible for the evolution of that. Responsible for the maintenance of that beautiful divine flow of energy. But other people on the planet right now, oh baby, they're overrun by entities. And I have a couple of videos on my channel where I talk about entities. There's a whole playlist about them. But here's the short of it. There are many people upon the planet stepping into higher and higher levels of personal responsibility. There are many people on the planet right now. And I know this because I have an online community. There's a couple of hundred people, and man, I'm watching them just grow and elevate and evolve and step into their personal authority. The lights are coming on inside of them. The veil is coming off. They're seeing themselves clearly. So there are a lot of people who are becoming very bad hosts for entities. Their field is getting clearer and clearer because they're occupying more and more of it. An entity can only take the place you do not. So an entity will assume directorship and leadership in your life when you don't take it, when your light doesn't occupy it, when you're not being a responsible custodian and caretaker of your own field. That is what the ascension journey is about. Now, because there are less people able to host entities, but the same amount of entities, in fact, entities are getting hungry. So when they find a suitable host, what's a suitable host? Somebody who's not willing to take responsibility. And I know that there's a lot of people that stumble and fumble and fall here. They say, oh, Kerry, it's not their fault. The universe does not pander to people's victimhood. The universe is here to see each and every sovereign individual behave as a sovereign individual. And it takes people like you, people like me, to be the front runners and trailblazers of what that looks like. And that means that there will be times when you blaze a trail ahead of others and you're going to feel like you're leaving them behind. You're going to feel like you're betraying them by going so far and so fast ahead, but you're not. Your purpose and your calling and your destiny is to blaze that trail into your divinity so that they have a pathway to follow. And in the short term, they may not like you for it. In the short term, they may feel that they've been abandoned by you. In the short term, you may feel that you've betrayed them. But this is how we serve others. We do not serve others by being loyal to their ego and staying stuck with them. That is not service. That is an agreement of negative intent. That's an agreement to stay stuck, a negative agreement. The only way that you serve people who are stuck is by you being unstuck. It's by you growing. And yeah, they'll resent you for that. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in today's conversation. But nonetheless, we've got a whole lot of entities on the planet right now. And when a person is overrun by entities, the words that they use are most often not even their own. The thoughts they think are most often not even their own. And it's confusing because it looks like somebody you've known for a very long time, but they're acting very strange. And then they're going to make it your fault. They're going to say, well, you know, it's you. You've changed. And you're going to think, well, it's true, I'm growing. Maybe it is me. Maybe I'm wrong. Self-doubt's going to creep in. That's part of the ploy. That's part of the test. It is to bring you into self-doubt, and you've got to have the courage to rise beyond that into where? Into your truth. And this is what you need to be aware of. They're going to accuse you of everything they're guilty of. And they're going to be so convincing because the nature of the ego is that it always believes itself. The ego cannot be responsible for itself. Therefore, it cannot see itself. But it can always see another person's wrongdoing and another person's bad behavior, because then it indemnifies them of seeing their own. So the ego is going to project. Now, remember I spoke about how we've got a lot of hosts with a lot of entities that inflates the ego. So now the ego with whom you are interacting, the person with whom you're interacting, they're going to start saying things to you like, you're to this, you're to that, you've changed, your ego is getting out of control, you're the one that's doing bad things. Remember, everything they're guilty of, they're going to say it's you. And this is the crazy thing, they're going to believe themselves. But will you validate you? That's the question. That's the test. Will you? See, we have a primal fear. We know about the fight-flight response, but there's something beyond that. There's primal fear. See, for many years, I worked in wildlife rehabilitation, and I know not a lot of you know that about me, but for many years, I worked specifically, all wildlife, but specifically with primates, baboons in particular. And baboons taught me so much about our own primate encoding, because we are exactly that. Primate genetic encoding runs us and provides a perfect landscape for primal fear, wherein if we risk the disapproval of others, it triggers that primal response that says, uh-oh, if I am isolated from the troop, if they move on without me and leave me in the wilderness alone, my death is certain. So there is a wiring inside of us that you have to, as an ascending consciousness, transcend. The wiring, that genetic encoding, says, if they don't like me, if I lose favor of others, I could die. Abandonment is not going to kill you. Your brain obviously knows that. But this is at a much deeper level than the brain. This is at a level that is so deeply embedded into the unconscious reactive self that you're going to even question yourself and say, but why do I want their approval? Why does this hurt so much? So when you find yourself backtracking in all of those relationships, as I spoke about earlier, know that it doesn't make you weak and it doesn't make you bad to have wanted the approval of others, to have tried to justify and excuse and explain yourself to their manipulations. It doesn't make you bad. It simply means that primate coding was running you. But what's higher than the primate coding is your divine connection to God's source consciousness. There's a rod of light. That rod of light is exactly the path. Think of that rod of light as a path of divinity that floods from the cosmic realm into your body, through your body, into the earth, and anchors divinity into the earth through your body. That's what you're responsible to. So the egos and the entities that are pulling the puppet strings of the egos are going to try to get you to meet them at their level. And the bargaining chip that they've got is approval. And that primate reflex, that primate fear, is going to drive you to amend your behavior to suit them. And as you shift and grow and elevate and change, more and more people around you are going to feel either very happy for you if it's an evolving person upon your journey, but I know that not everybody is. And not everybody's going to be happy for your growth. In fact, a lot of people are going to be offended by your growth because it's going to challenge them. It's going to challenge them in a way that they may not be ready to be challenged. And your facing of your ego is going to present an opportunity for them to face their ego at a level they may not be ready for. This is where they try to bring you down. This is where they shame and they blame and they project all of their own unconsciousness upon you. Again, there's the question, will you be answerable to their ego? You know the answer is no. But don't be ashamed of the part of you that says, well, actually, I feel like I really should defend myself. Your truth will never need a defense. But we've all lived under the auspices of the false matrix. In other words, we've all lived in the lie for so long That we have so many layers of shame to unravel, and bring ourselves out of that buried place where we were buried underneath the layers of shame. We've got to bring ourselves up and out of that. So do you see how this test elevates you into your power and into your innocence? Because that's the opposite of shame. The opposite of shame is not shamelessness. And notice how we've really perverted that, saying, oh, that person's shameless. That's a bad thing. They're shameless, right? The truth is, where you're moving is back into your innocence. And here's part of the test. As you move into your innocence and you reclaim your power and you don't justify and over-explain yourself to another, and it's okay. You know, you might need to straighten out a misperception of somebody. So I'm not saying you've got to walk away from them. I'm simply saying don't go into the ego's dance. Because when you do, it's never enough. As soon as you answer and you say, no, but this is actually who I am. I'm not this kind of a person. I'm that kind of a person. They're just going to accuse you with the next thing that they themselves are guilty of. So it's kind of like trying to feed the hungry ghost. It's never going to be satisfied. There is this amazing test that you're getting to walk through right now, and it's refining your character and your truth and your power, and it's setting you into a trail that you're blazing directly into the heart of your own higher consciousness. There is something so unmistakably beautiful about what you're doing, but be warned, be wise, beware that when others, not that they're going to use these words, of course, but when others say to you, listen, I'm not okay with how powerful you're becoming. I'm not okay with how much you're growing. That's a compliment. And it's okay if your self-worth and self-doubt kick in and you feel like loneliness or the fear of loneliness starts consuming you. It's okay. If you find yourself being the one who says, uh-oh, it was my ego asking others to change for me. It was my ego trying to bully others into being a different, meeker, milder version of themselves so that I didn't feel threatened. So you see, it could also be that you recognize yourself in that behavior. Still, there is no shame there. There is only how responsible can I be to myself? Can I make amends to my power within my being? That's always your course correct. Look at how beautifully those three elements, the self-worth, the loneliness, the fear of loneliness, I should say, and the self-doubt. Look at how those three things brought themselves into one unified experience. What you're going to find more and more is that as you conquer, as you deal with one energy and resolve it, it's kind of like dominoes falling. It's kind of like, well, I can't deal with self-worth without correcting all of these other things that are connected to self-worth as well. That's healing is becoming more and more quantum. You're going to find yourself healing at such an instantaneous level that remedies so much within you that was once so vastly imbalanced. So please embrace what lies ahead of you. There's a prize at the end, which is your innocence and ultimately you. You're not answerable to anything or anyone except your alignment. Final thing I want to say to you. When people want the meeker, milder version of you, have compassion for them, because the truth is you introduced the meeker, milder version of yourself to them, so you can't blame them for knowing that meeker, milder version of you. You can't hate them or judge them and say, well, you're just bad. You're just ego-ridden. You're just wrong, right? Be compassionate and go, well, I can understand why you don't like this more powerful version of me because you met the less powerful version of me. Doesn't mean that that's an apology that you need to do something about. It's simply a means of compassionately understanding where they are. There's a video, Rods of Light. Let me leave it for you. Watch that next. Even if you've watched it before, it was quite a while ago and you might need a refresher on this one. Lots of love, everyone. Bye-bye for now.